Once investigators confirmed the body in the grave was not Daniel, the case shifted from a procedural failure to an identity collapse. Legally, a person's death is not defined by the body. It's defined by documentation, a death certificate, a burial permit, an entry in a database. Daniel's case, all of those existed. They were just attached to the wrong remains, which meant that on paper, Daniel had been dead 4 years. But physically, his body had never been accounted for. This created a rare legal problem. You cannot exhume what doesn't exist. You cannot autopsy ashes that were never tested. And you cannot correct records without proving what happened to the body in between. The system had declared Daniel dead, but the system could not prove where he had gone. Investigators reopened archive cases from the same hospital during the same 48-hour window. They weren't looking for Daniel by name. They were looking for mistakes. Specifically, bodies released without family present, remains labeled John Doe cases. Involving expedited cremation, one file immediately stood out. It was thin, too thin, no personal effects, no photographs, no fingerprints logged. Just a single line, unidentified male, transferred for cremation. The timestamp matched Daniel's death within 3 hours. The hospital claimed it was coincidence. Investigators disagreed. Hospitals do not lose bodies, but they do misroute them, especially when two patients die close together. Staff are overworked. Identification relies on wristbands instead of verification. In this case, 2 men died the same morning, same age range, same general appearance, different identities. One had family waiting, one did not. Somewhere between the hospital room and the morgue intake desk, those 2 identities crossed. Once that happens, everything downstream inherits the mistake. Cremation removes evidence permanently. There is no second chance, no later testing, no correction. If Daniel's body had been cremated under the John Doe label, then every forensic opportunity had already been destroyed. Investigators subpoenaed crematory logs. The response came back clean, no irregularities, no missing entries, no unexplained remains, but one detail stood out. The cremation occurred before the burial that was supposed to be Daniel's, which meant that chronologically, Daniel's funeral may have happened after his body was already gone. Daniel's family wasn't informed immediately. Authorities debated how to tell them. There was no body to return, no remains to rebury, no certainty. Eventually, they were called in. The conversation lasted under 15 minutes. They were told the body in the grave wasn't Daniel. Daniel's remains could not be recovered. The case was being reviewed internally. There was no apology, just explanation. For the family, this was worse than death. They had already grieved. Now they were being told they had grieved the wrong way, at the wrong grave, for the wrong body. The man buried in Daniel's grave was finally identified through DNA. He had distant relatives. None had been notified of his death. They never attended a funeral, never approved a burial, never saw a headstone. Their family member had been buried under someone else's name for nearly 5 years. 2 families had been wronged in opposite ways. One buried someone who wasn't theirs. The other never knew where theirs was. When mistakes like this happen, people expect consequences. But accountability requires intent or negligence. In this case, responsibility was diluted. The hospital blamed the police. The police blamed documentation. The funeral home blamed what they were given. Each step followed protocol based on the step before it. No single decision met the legal standard for criminal charges, so no one was prosecuted. The error was categorized as systemic procedural failure, which is another way of saying everyone was involved. So no one was punished. One question continued to bother investigators. Why was the casket sealed so quickly? Sealed caskets are common when remains are damaged, decomposed, or unsafe to view. But Daniel's medical records did not indicate any of that. So why instruct the family not to open it? The answer was simple and unsettling. Once the body had been misidentified, opening the casket would have exposed the error immediately. Someone realized that, and instead of stopping the process, they locked it in place. There was no memo ordering a cover-up, no recorded conversation, just a series of small choices. Don't recheck, don't delay, don't ask questions. Each one made the mistake harder to reverse. By the time burial happened, too many systems had already agreed on the wrong answer. Reopening it would have meant admitting failure. So they didn't. Years later, the records were amended. Daniel's cause of death was updated to misidentified remains. The unidentified man was reclassified with his real name. The grave marker was changed, but there was still no body attached to Daniel's identity. Legally, he existed only as paperwork, a person without remains. Families often say closure comes from certainty. This case removed it entirely. There was no place to visit, no ashes to hold, no body to mourn. Only the knowledge that Daniel's physical existence had been erased by procedure. One family member described it this way: "It feels like he disappeared twice." Mistaken burial cases are rare, but not unheard of. Most never reach public attention. They're resolved quietly, paper corrected, remains reassigned, families compensated. What makes this case different is that the correction came too late. Once cremation happens, the error becomes permanent. This case is now used in forensic training programs as an example of why verification matters at every step. The most disturbing part is not the switch. It's not the burial. It's that everyone trusted the label. No fingerprints, no dental check, no visual confirmation, just a wristband. When that band was wrong, everything else followed. If Daniel's body had been cremated as John Doe, then somewhere in the system exists a record of his destruction, but no document names him, which means officially Daniel was never cremated and never buried. He exists only as an error. Death is supposed to be the one moment where identity stops changing. But this case proves that even after life ends, a name can be lost, a body can be reassigned, and a mistake, once buried, can stay hidden as long as no one looks inside the casket.